Taking your favorites and making them healthy. My husband Sean is joining me in the kitchen and we're gonna make Panera chicken noodle soup, Girl Scout Samoa cookies, grilled Chick-fil-A nuggets, and protein Z-bars made with real food ingredients right from your kitchen. Well, today's show is all about copycats. So we're gonna be putting a healthier spin on a lot of famous recipes from restaurants and a lot of well-known recipes. And Sean is joining me in the kitchen today. And you're one of my favorite people to cook with because I feel like he's like a child. He doesn't have any preconceived ideas. He just does whatever I tell him to do. It's great.
I have the palate of a child too, so.
That's true. So we're making Panera Copycat chicken noodle soup.
Okay.
And I know that this might seem like, well, that's really easy and simple to just make chicken noodle soup. But a lot of people don't know how to make it in a crock pot without boiling the noodles. So that's nice because the crock pot does everything for you. And B, that creamy texture that's in the chicken noodle soup at Panera, I don't know what they put in it, but I guarantee you it's probably not as healthy as we make it. So we're gonna be making this from home today, of course with a healthy spin. For this recipe, you'll need 8 cups of chicken broth, 1 head of cauliflower, 1 pound of chicken breast, 1 cup of celery, 1 cup of carrot, 1 10-ounce package of pasta, 2 tablespoons of parsley, 1/2 teaspoon of dried thyme, 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, and a pinch of pepper. So, Sean, I'll have you cut up some cauliflower and some celery.
Okay.
And
I've seen this done.
Yes.
But I've never seen, how do you cut up a cauliflower?
So I'll show you how to do the celery first.
Okay.
Just trim off the ends.
Okay.
The ends on both sides, and you can throw those in the sink. And then you can just kind of chop it into, bite-sized pieces.
Okay.
And then for the cauliflower, do you want me to cut the cauliflower?
I want to see, just in
Okay.
case I ever have to do it in the future.
Oh yes, you never know.
How close do I get to the, oh my
We
God,
talked
I
about-
almost sliced, oh.
Oh.
What in the world? What? I didn't do anything. It's like a prop knife. I've never seen that. What?
Okay, so Sean, yeah, go ahead and cut off the ends of that celery, and I'll show you how to cut a cauliflower. Now, I will say, you can just use frozen cauliflower for this. You don't have to use a full head of cauliflower. If this intimidates you, just buy a bag of frozen cauliflower and dump it in the crock pot. Easy. But if you have fresh cauliflower, I just remove some of the leaves ahead of time, and then you just cut the stem right off. And then you just kind of peel the rest off. That way you don't really waste too much of the cauliflower trying to cut into it. Just like that. So you could just peel the whole thing by hand, but it's easier to just trim the first part off.
Am I cutting these into smaller pieces?
Like bite size kind of.
Okay.
And then just take all the leaves off, and then you're still gonna cut out that majority of the stem as you cut it. You can cut it one of 2 ways from here. You can either do it like this, or I like to just get a flat surface by cutting off part of the florets. We'll throw those in the crock pot. Okay. Just chucking things in there. And then once you have a flat surface, it's much safer to cut the rest of the cauliflower. So just kind of cut around that base. See how you have the base left? And then that is pretty much trash. I mean, you could use the rest since it's going in the cauliflower if you wanted, but I find that part's kind of tough. Okay. So I usually just use the florets at the top. So then we're gonna add this cauliflower and the celery to the crock pot. So you can pick it up and kind of swipe it right in there.
I've seen this done on shows before. Look at that.
Oh, very professional.
Those look too big though, honestly.
No, they'll be fine. Yeah,
Okay.
if they're bite-sized pieces, that's fine.
Okay.
You just don't want like a full stalk.
Okay.
And then, do you want to cut the carrots?
Okay, same way?
Yep, kind of just the same as the celery. Here, I'll help you. I'll do half of them.
Right.
So what makes this recipe a little bit creamier than just a typical chicken noodle soup is actually the cauliflower. So when it starts to cook and it really breaks down.
They're just shooting everywhere here.
That's okay. Once the cauliflower
you're doing
breaks
like 5
down.
in a row.
Well, it's easier that way.
Oh, I can't do that. No way. One at a time.
So once the cauliflower softens and breaks down in the crock pot, it almost acts like a potato. So it kind of has like this soft texture to it. And once you start to stir it and it breaks down and it gets soft in there, it really does make it more of like a creamy texture chicken noodle soup. So that's why we add the cauliflower. It's not just for more nutrition and fiber, it's actually to make it like a creamier soup.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
All right, and then I'll have you put in some parsley.
Okay.
And I'll add some dried thyme and oregano or
How much
onion
of this?
powder.
Just 1 scoop of this?
Yep, 1 tablespoon of dried parsley. And the dried thyme really gives it a homemade chicken noodle soup flavor. And then you can add those 2 boxes of chicken broth.
Okay.
And this is such an easy recipe. If you are thinking about making a quick stop, let's say for lunch to Panera, you could just throw this into your crock pot in the morning and you can see how easy it was. Again, if you just buy frozen cauliflower and canned carrots, you're literally just cutting up the celery. Put everything into a crock pot. By noon, you have a homemade soup that has leftover for days. So, in my opinion, there's really no need to ever stop and get takeout, especially for lunch, if you can throw something in a crock pot and have it ready for lunchtime.
Both
And then
of
I'm
these,
gonna add, yep,
all of it? Okay.
yep. I'm gonna add the chicken straight to the crock pot. And then you might be wondering, well, when do we add the pasta? So you'll wanna cook this for 4 hours on high or 8 hours on low, covered of course. Then once it's done cooking, you shred the chicken up with 2 forks or however you like to do it. And then you add your pasta. So any kind of pasta will work. Throw the whole box of pasta in the crock pot. Once it's done cooking, everything's done cooking in there, and you'll cover it and cook it on high for another 20 to 30 minutes, just until the noodles are set and cooked the way you like them. And then the soup's ready to serve. It's so, so easy and so delicious, and can't get better than homemade Panera Copycat chicken noodle soup. All right, so now we're gonna make a Copycat Samoa recipe. So Samoas are Girl Scout cookies.
Oh yeah.
So if you have ever had a Girl Scout cookie, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, essentially this is a shortbread cookie layered with caramel, coconut, and chocolate. So
delicious.
pretty delicious. For this recipe, you'll need 1/2 cup of peanut butter, 1/4 cup of maple syrup, 1 3/4 cup of oat flour, 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, and 2 tablespoons of water. For the caramel layer, you'll need 3/4 cup of maple syrup, 1/2 cup of coconut cream, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, and 2.5 cups of shredded coconut. For the chocolate layer, you'll need 12 ounces of chocolate chips and a 4 teaspoon of salt. So Sean, I'll have you make the caramel layer.
Okay.
This is gonna be all done in this one pot that's warming right here. It might be a little bit too hot, so we might need to keep an eye on that just so it doesn't burn. So just add the maple syrup, peanut butter, and coconut cream to the pot. Don't add the coconut yet.
Okay.
We're gonna let that kind of warm up and thicken so that it becomes like a caramel. And then as it becomes thicker, then we'll add our coconut. If you wanna do toasted coconut, you can always toast it ahead of time, but we're just gonna go with the regular coconut, which is just as good.
Can I have the spatula?
Yes,
That
there you
might
go.
be easier.
And then I'm gonna make the shortbread layer all in the bowl here. And so this is gonna turn out just kind of like a cookie dough is what you're looking for. And then we're gonna roll it out. And then when we're done rolling it out, we have this little circle cookie cutter. And if you don't have one of these, you can just use the bottom of like a mason jar or a cup, anything with a circle that's about the size of a cookie. And then you'll just wanna cut out the shortbread just with that circle cookie cutter as the base layer of these cookies.
Am I stirring this? Am I going until it congeals?
So you wanna keep whisking till it's thickened. If
Okay.
it looks like the heat is just too high and it's looking like it's gonna smoke or burn, turn it down just a little bit. That's
Okay.
the only trick with making a caramel sauce is you just wanna make sure it doesn't burn, which can happen pretty quickly. So you just gotta keep an eye on it. So you're just gonna whisk that. What I do when I make these on my own without a helper is I just make the cookie base layer first, put that in the oven, and while it's baking, I make the caramel layer. And trust me, these cookies are worth it to make the extra step of your homemade caramel. They are so, so delicious. All right, so this dough is ready to be cut out into circles. So we have our cookies for the shortbread layer. Sean, do you feel like you did anything when you were a kid that taught you life skills? Like anything?
Rob laughs.
I mean, you
yes,
know.
I do. Sports specifically.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I mean, I played 5 sports as a kid, all at one time, and it taught me a lot of things, like hard
5
work.
at one time?
Yeah, I played indoor soccer, outdoor soccer, ice hockey, roller hockey, and baseball. All at the
Wow.
same time. My mom and dad were crazy, obviously.
Yeah.
That's a lot of driving around, but
Yeah.
you know, sports, you can take a lot of lessons from sports about hard work and practicing and, you know, dedication,
True.
teamwork. So,
Respecting a
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah,
Respecting authority.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Also, probably preparedness was something
sure.
that you had to know so that you didn't show up and you didn't know what you're doing or you didn't have stuff with you that you needed, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's so important to like go beyond just math and reading and writing. And the more that I homeschool, the more that I realize that there's so much more that you have to teach a child in order to prepare them for the real world. It's
Yeah.
not just teaching them subjects, but it's real life stuff. So I'm gonna bake the shortbread layer 350 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes, and Sean is gonna continue to thicken up the caramel sauce, and then we're gonna put it all together. Okay, so the shortbread cookies just came out of the oven. They look perfect. I did take the bottom of a spoon and kind of do the imprint in the center just to make them look more classic, like the traditional Samoa cookies. And the caramel did thicken up, so how you'll know that it's ready to go is you'll kind of drip it on the bottom of a whisk or a spoon, and it kind of is like a thick caramel, just like that. And once that's ready, then you can add the coconut.
Okay.
You
Dump
know,
it all in?
straight to the pot.
Don't feather it in.
Here, I'll help you. Yep.
Okay.
And then you can kind of toss it in there. I did turn off the heat, so once you're noticing it's thick, just turn it right off, and then you can add your coconut. And then once you get that kind of stirred together, then we can add it to the shortbread layer. Okay, so we're gonna add this caramel layer. It's okay if you do it, you know, once you cool it down a little, if you're a little scared to burn yourself. I do have hands that are trained for anything in the
Calloused
kitchen.
from many burns.
That's right. And then again, if you want to do it when it's a little bit cooler, you can kind of shape it around that circle in the middle. But since I'm doing it when it's hot, I'm just gonna show you kind of how I'm gonna reform that little center circle. So it's gonna look just like that once we add the coconut caramel layer. Do you want to attempt doing it?
You got gloves?
It's not that hot, I promise. Because once you add the coconut, it cools it down a lot.
I didn't see how much you grabbed. Is that about?
Yeah, you can just put it on top of one of those. And then I'm gonna add the chocolate layer. So we melted the chocolate. And I did add a little coconut oil just to make it a little easier to spread. If you add coconut oil, it does make it easier to kind of just drizzle over versus glob on. So I recommend doing that for sure. And then you just kind of drizzle the chocolate, and it looks just like Samoa cookies. If you have ever had one, they do look very similar, where they are just coconut, shortbread, and chocolate.
You know who would love these is your mom.
She would.
loves coconut.
She would. All right, so all you want to do is coat the rest of these with a drizzle of chocolate, and then they'll be ready to serve once they firm up a bit. I would put them in the fridge just to firm up just for a few minutes, and you'll see they firm up really quickly, the caramel and the chocolate layer. These look excellent.
They look really good.
Thanks for your help.
Thanks. You're welcome.
Coming up next, these juicy grilled nuggets are perfectly seasoned, tender, and loaded with flavor, just like the ones that you love from Chick-fil-A. So now we're on to some Copycat Chick-fil-A grilled nuggets. This is something that I get at Chick-fil-A all the time, and I thought I need to learn how to make this myself at home. For this recipe, you'll need 1.5 pounds of chicken breast, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of powdered sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of paprika, 1/2 cup of apple cider vinegar, and 1/4 cup of almond milk. I didn't know what it was about the grilled nuggets that they have so much flavor, so I did a little research and I found out that they use an apple cider vinegar marinade along with some powdered sugar. So that little bit of sweetness that you taste in the nuggets, I think is what makes them so delicious. So we're gonna make a marinade, and essentially you just wanna marinate this for at least 30 minutes before cooking it. But we're gonna do this just ASAP today, and even if you have just 5 to 10 minutes just to marinate them, then I promise you they will be absolutely delicious. So we're gonna cut up the chicken into bite-sized pieces, just like I'm doing here. And I'm just using kitchen shears, kitchen scissors, because it's a lot easier, I think, than getting out a cutting board and cutting it. You can do whatever you feel comfortable with. So we're gonna cut those into even size pieces. And now we're gonna make the marinade. So we're gonna do some salt. And this is really what gives it a lot of the flavors, the seasonings as well. Paprika, garlic and onion powder, and then some apple cider vinegar. And that's what helps the chicken to be really tender and juicy. And then some milk, and like I said, powdered sugar. And when I go to fast food restaurants, I typically look for something on the menu that is grilled. I don't eat fast food typically a lot, just because if I'm in a situation where I have to eat something really fast, there's a lot of really fast options that aren't necessarily fast food anymore. So I feel like we're blessed in that sense. But I do, from time to time, have to stop at fast food, especially when we're making a road trip. So if we're going from Tennessee to Michigan, we almost always stop at fast food just because it has to be really fast. We don't want to add time onto our 10-hour drive. So what we end up doing is look for a Chick-fil-A. And then I just get grilled nuggets and I get a side salad and I put the grilled nuggets on top of the salad. Or they do have a few grilled chicken options that you can take a wrap, so like wrap bread, and instead I just wrap it in some lettuce wrap. So it's a little bit healthier that way. Okay, so now we want to add this chicken to the hot pan. I don't just dump it in because you don't really want all of the liquid to go in the pan. If you end up getting too much liquid in the pan, it almost steams the chicken rather than grilling it. And you could essentially do this on a grill. You just want to put the chicken on a kebab, so like a skewer, in order to cook it because it's in little chunks. But I'm just doing it in a cast iron skillet, which I think works just as well as a grill, if not better. You could also use stainless steel or whatever kind of skillet that you have. So you'll want to cook the chicken for about 3 to 5 minutes on each side, flipping it as it cooks, and you can see how there's some nice grill marks on the chicken once you cook it for long enough on each side. Now, if you want the actual Chick-fil-A grill marks, what I recommend is doing like a griddle that has kind of like the ridges in it, because that way it will make the actual grill marks. But to me, this is just as good. It looks tasty. So this chicken is going to be kind of like a charred look on the outside, but really, really juicy and flavorful on the inside. And how good does that look? So if you love Chick-fil-A and you love their nuggets, these were so simple to make right at home, and I guarantee you your entire family will just eat these up. Coming up next, finishing up our copycat theme, Z-bars. Made with real food ingredients from your pantry, these Copycat Z-bars are kid tested and mother approved. So we're gonna wrap things up with Copycat Z bars. And if you have kids, you probably know what a Z bar is. If you don't know what they are, basically, they're just chocolate chip granola bars that are made with like a little Z stripe of chocolate on top. And they're so wildly popular, at least with my kids and all of their friends. And so I just figured, you know what, we can make these at home, not only to make them healthier, but also to save money. For this recipe, you'll need 1/2 cup of oats, 2 cups of oat flour, 1/3 cup of sweetener, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder and baking soda, 1/4 cup of applesauce, 1/3 cup of peanut butter, 1 tablespoon of honey, 1 egg, and 1/2 cup of chocolate chips. So start off with some oat flour in the bowl, and we're just gonna add all the rest of the ingredients to the bowl as well, except for the melted chocolate and the chocolate chips.
The dry ingredients.
Yes, and
I remember that from
also
making.
the peanut butter and applesauce and eggs.
Okay. So
not all the dry ingredients. I always just throw everything into a bowl. Technically, you're supposed to do separate bowls with dry and wet. But
that's right. I remember that from our cookie making days.
I can't get myself to dirty extra bowls. So I just mix everything all together. It's quicker too. All right, you can add the applesauce.
Okay. I'll keep the spatula.
One of the things that Sean and I, it's really important to us, is that our kids not only, you know, are healthy physically, but also their character and building their character is so important to Sean and I. And so we've been really working the past few years, especially as Maddie's gotten a little bit older, at thinking about how we can shape their character at home. And so, you know, not going with influences. And the reason I'm even thinking about this is Maddie the other day asked me if she could have a Lunchable in her lunch. And I was like, how did you even hear about a Lunchable? You know, definitely not from home. And she said, well, all my friends have them at school.
Really?
And, you know, it's the same thing with just food in general. Like, she's starting to notice that her friends have certain things in their lunch boxes. And I'm like, no, we're not going to be influenced by your friends. And so, you know, what's funny is one day it was a yes day for her. So I let her have pretty much within reason whatever she wanted. I did this the day before she started school. And as long as she asked me and it was within reason, I said yes to it. So she asked me for Lunchables. So I bought her one and brought it home.
An actual Lunchable? Why do I not remember this?
She did not like it.
Yeah.
And I was like, see, I didn't think you would. But I think when your kids eat real food most of the time, they're gonna, you know, have a preference for that with their taste buds. So she didn't like the Lunchable. I was quite proud.
Did you eat Lunchables as a kid?
No.
No?
I did not.
Oh man,
no.
I had many Lunchables.
Oh dear. So, but you know, it's not just important to me that our kids aren't influenced in the way that they eat and what's, you know, trendy, but more so how they act and really who they are as a person. So Sean and I have had many conversations about that, of just how are we going to work through this situation or that situation as we notice them popping up more and more now that Maddie's 8 and she's in 2nd grade. Yeah. And I know it'll just continue from here of just, you know, what to do about certain situations when Maddie is around other kids and she's being influenced, so to speak. Even though she's homeschooled, she goes to school 2 days a week. So at a Christian school. But still, you know, being around other kids, there's always something that's going on.
Today, when I dropped her off at school, she asked me for a roller backpack.
Oh.
I think, and
like
I
on
saw,
wheels?
Yeah, and I saw all of her friends had them.
Oh.
So I was like, that's where it came from. And I said, her backpack's like 100 pounds. And I said, you know, suffering breeds character. So she needs to, you know.
Toughen up.
So
we're gonna take this dough. It's kind of like a cookie dough is what you're looking for it to get to. And just kind of break it into like 6 bars. So just kind of roll it.
Okay.
Yep. I just kind of, that was my dividing.
That was interesting. That was a cool technique, actually.
That was how I kind of like eyeballed.
These are cookies?
Yes. So they're gonna turn into bars.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So we're gonna just roll them into balls first, just so we can kind of get a sense for how much we need for each one. And then we'll shape them into bars. So then you wanna kind of just shape these, kind of smash them down a little.
Oh, wow, you're good at that.
And shape them into like a log, so that it's a bar.
Makes sense.
Just like that. Yep, perfect. So now we're going to, well, we don't want to drizzle chocolate on yet. We want to add just the chocolate chips. So Sean, if we want to, you want to help me just sprinkle a few chocolate chips on top, just mini chocolate chips. And then when these come out of the oven, we'll add our Z stripe of chocolate. Those look good. Hope we can help that one out. So these are gonna bake 350 degrees for 10 to 15 minutes, just until they're set. And then when you take them out of the oven, let them cool for just about 5 to 10 minutes before drizzling the chocolate on top. And they will be good in the fridge for about 1 to 2 weeks. Well, Sean, I really enjoyed making these Copycats with you today. These are not only healthier, but like I said, they'll save you time and money in the long run. And if you don't have a Girl Scout around, I mean, you can make a Girl Scout cookie right at home. So what could be better than that? Those are Chick-fil-A nuggets. I knew you'd love those the most. If you'd like these recipes, you can head over to dashingdish.com, where you'll find recipes and more to nourish your body and soul. Is it good?
It's delicious.